Today, I'm so pleased to be joined by two local celebrities and one international celebrity. Her Excellency Noura Al-Kabi has been UAE Minister of Culture and Youth since 2017. Her Excellency Hala Badri has been the Director General of Dubai Culture and Arts Authority since 2019. And Sir David Adjaye is known for designing notable buildings around the world, including the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. Just Google it and have a look. It's a tri-level building, copper color. It's absolutely incredible to see. So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Your Excellency Ms. Al-Kabi, can you just elaborate first on the UAE's ambitious plan to activate the creative economy strategy, and how would that really contribute to strengthening the country's contribution to the global cultural and creative map?
Thank you, Ramia. First of all, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to be here in such a buzzing last maybe 24 hours of Expo 2020, where we're already suffering some separation anxiety, and and I think there will be a void happening. So I hope there will be counseling sessions post that. I'm going to request that from Excellency Reem. Going back to this panel, I'm honored to be next to David and of course my colleague Hala. And for who wants to see a beautiful building of David, just drive an hour, maybe and a half to see the Saadiyat building, the Abrahamic family house is erected and it's beautiful. So it's in the UAE and we're very proud to have one of his designs in this country. Talking about the creative economy and the story of the creative economy. So let's go back to 2018. We all gathered under the dome of Louvre Museum and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid gave us a directive. His directive was basically how to look at the future of culture and creative industries. Yet how to do it is to get different local and international partners with us in a retreat discussing what is the future, how can we have a sustainable economy, we diversify the economy and therefore use the creative and cultural industry term and create a sector within the ministry that looks into it. So what happened is we created a council involving local partners and also private agencies to talk with regards about the strategy that we want to work on. We're working with agencies like WIPO because you need statistics, you need to measure the size of the industry. If you want to look at it as a more of let's say a strategic and yet viable economically, you need to use numbers and you need to have the seat on the table and discuss what is the future of a contributor to the GDP. Therefore, a strategy has been made and therefore we made sure that the bedrock of everything we do is listening from policymakers till freelancers. So this is the complete kind of a collaborative way of give and take and asking questions, and maybe not using the word let's look at what they've done or a benchmark. No, create our benchmark, create the policy, design the policy. We're policy designers. I mean, the designer is in the middle, and I think for us it's how can we be ahead of the game. So last year we announced the strategy of culture and creative industries. The strategy aims to make the industry one of the top 10 top industries in the UAE, to make sure that we contribute to the economy up to 5%, and most importantly, look at our talents, the job creation, and the ecosystem of the small and medium and businesses. Adding to that, what sells our stories out there are the talents. So their stories, the goods that we're going to export, the services and whatsoever. And we can't do this alone. We're doing it with 6 federal institutions, Ministry of Economy, Ministry of Education, because we need to start from the early childhood education. We need to start from day one, from them scribbling to the time where they're going to create an object or a story. And most importantly, the policies and human resources, the statistics, and other local partners. So it is a very collaborative work. It is a work that is not just done by the ministry, but the partners of the ministry, whether they're policymakers or talents. Thank you.
So a 5% contribution to UAE GDP, that's a huge number. And Dubai also has a similar strategy for the Emirate, which aims to transform it into a global destination for creativity and the capital of the creative economy by 2026. What measures are in place, Your Excellency, really to achieve this goal here?
Thank you, Ramia. So, like the federal government, the Dubai actually launched a strategy for creative economy, and it was announced by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum back in April in 2021. And with it came responsibilities, very clear KPIs and targets and strategic objectives and projects. The KPI that we needed to achieve by 2026 was 5% contribution to the GDP, doubling the workforce to 140,000 individuals to contribute to this sector, and also doubling the number of organizations that exist in Dubai. With this very clear KPI, we needed to look at the hard systems and also the soft systems. And by that, we mean looking at the infrastructure that actually incubates these talents and creatives. And we're looking at the hard infrastructure, but we're also looking at the soft infrastructure. And like Her Excellency mentioned, the importance of cultural statistics to be able to improve on this sector. So if you look at the hard system or the hard infrastructure, we worked on launching the Al-Goz Creative Zone. Now Al-Goz is, for those of you who know Dubai, is an area, an industrial area and a nerve center for Dubai. So we took part of Al-Goz and we created, or we transformed it, announced it as a creative zone. Why did we do that? Because Al-Goz had organically grown and it had organically housed a lot of creatives. However, they needed the soft mobility. They needed a little bit of green areas. They needed a little bit of connectivity. It's an area that allows the artists to ideate, to create, to produce, and also disseminate their work and creative services. So that's an area that we've worked on. The other area of soft systems that we've worked on is basically what is the business environment that these artists and designers and creatives need. And the business environment that they need must look at value propositions for these artists. And these value propositions include, for example, banking services. So we collaborated with Commercial Bank of Dubai, where we did a custom offering to the creatives. We collaborated with LinkedIn to provide custom courses for them. A lot of these creatives, although strong in their area, needed, for example, legal backgrounds, or they needed business management backgrounds. We also collaborated with a startup like Let's Work to provide co-working and co-creating spaces at cheap, affordable rates. These are artists and designers who are commissioned. They don't have a constant salary. They make their basically living through commissioned work. The other thing that we concentrated on was cultural statistics. And I'm very proud to announce that Dubai is the first city in the MENA region to actually have a very clear cultural analytic and statistics framework. And this is confirmed by the UNESCO. Why did we need this cultural statistics? Because tomorrow, if we want to look at the creative pulse of Dubai and the health of this sector, it is very important to be very transparent with the investors. And these investors, and to attract foreign direct investment, it is very important for them to see that it's a healthy sector, it's a sector that is growing, and it's a sector that is promising. So that's in a nutshell what we have been up to, but a lot more to come, hopefully, in the near future.
That is a really large nutshell and a huge list of initiatives there. Congratulations to the UAE and to Dubai for all of those efforts. Sir Ajay, from a creative business perspective, how does the government really play a role in nurturing the creative sector?
Thank you. And it's wonderful to be with Your Excellencies on this panel. I must say that the UAE, Dubai, is really punching well above its weight in comparison to the global sort of comparison. I think that essentially many of the things that have been outlined are the critical issues that are required. Identifying a space that really does offer multiple possibilities for creatives to be able to see each other and also network with each other. Having a space where learning. You know, creatives spend a lot of time learning about being creative, but not a lot of time spending learning how to be business people or learning about the legal system, which as soon as you start to make something, you run into. You know, insurance, for instance, is a huge part of what we do, and understanding that design liability is a very important part of what we do. But as a young sort of architect, when I was starting up, what I needed was access to the information about what was possible to do in the public sector. I think as young designers, we are in the environment. I call myself young, I'm not young anymore. But we're in the environment, but having the government have transparency of opportunity is a very important part of it. And it really is not about large jobs, which we think it's all about, but also small things, and allowing young designers to be able to partner with maybe larger firms and to be able to use that as what I call a kind of training mechanism, an incubator or kindergarten mechanism to be able to step up into the design world. What is very important in the design ecology is that there's always growth, that there's always a way to bring up the new generation and to bring up new ideas. And that's how you get resilience, that's how you build diversity, bringing up different voices. That creates a better ecology.
Your Excellency, I would like to know about your opinions on the key values and principles of design that really help society to drive progress and to tackle complicated problems. And Sir Ajay, I would love it if you would also respond to this question as well.
I think from the values perspective we're mostly the policymakers. We get to do operational work when is needed, but most importantly, how we can be the enablers. So my design of a policy making and the values that underpins it are in a major way are focused on the purpose of why are we doing it. So this is the question: why am I looking at it as an industry? Why am I talking now, as David mentioned? The artist will do the art, or will write the poem, or the business side of it is not going to be the side that is going to intrigue them. They need to complement it, whether it's with the information, or whether it's with building a team that gets the operational side, and then they can fill the creative side. So I think from that sense is looking at where are the requirements, what kind of information, what kind of awareness that ICAT should be building. And going back to the point, so even last year there's the IP protection law that was established as well here in the UAE. It protects the designer, the musician, the artist, and for that, they will have questions. If I see my song is being played in one of the fountains, what can I do? I said, well, no, you can pick the phone and say, you need to stop playing my song without my permission. And it's a simple kind of a 101 way of making them understand that there's a value of the work that they're doing. But of course, it's more complicated than just picking up a phone call, because the fountain might play the song again. And I think it's more of looking at the purpose of taking what we're doing to the next level. So number one is the value of what underpins the UAE. And let me go back to a story. So pre the inception of the UAE, which is the 2nd of December 1971, the founder of this nation invited a diva to sing Kulthum for 2 nights celebrating. And they built an infrastructure for her. They built a theater for her to perform. She attended the celebration in Qasr al-Manhal in Abu Dhabi of the flag ceremony, our new flag ceremony. The founder building an infrastructure, inviting her in such a historic moment of a federation, the last federation in modern history, and looking at culture and creativity as a value of having that present in that moment. So the purpose is the value of coexistence, the value of respect, respecting IP, respecting rights, allowing for collaborations, and most importantly is looking how can I make sure that it evolves, because if I want it to be sustainable, I need to make sure that it evolves. I need to test the policy. I need to evaluate the policy, if it works, if it doesn't work. And how to do that is doing it, again, with the entities that we've been meeting for the past 2 years and making sure that we're all on the same page.
Sir Adshay.
I will add to Her Excellency's excellent remarks. I mean, for me, something that when we sort of talk about this question, I'm an advisor for the mayor in London, and something that we've set up to deal with this question is really to talk about the idea of setting standards and applying standards. Really, it's one thing just setting standards, but really applying the standards and making sure that they're being applied is very important. Building capacity through the networks, through the mentoring system, supporting diversity, the diversity of voices is really important. And really, I think leading by example and commissioning excellence. That's how you build resilience. Excellence is a word that we need to use more normally rather than exceptionally. And I think that's something we all deserve, and that's what our citizens deserve. Yeah.
Your Excellency, what's the importance really of design in the growth of Dubai's economy in particular?
So before I speak about the importance of design to Dubai, I think it's important to speak about the importance of design to us as human beings. Every morning we wake up and we take things for granted, from the design of your toothbrush that is designed in a way to reach the back of your teeth, for example, to the design of your bed, the bed sheets, to the vehicle that you rode to this venue today, to everything, to what you're wearing, your shoes, your glasses, your jewelry. Everything is done by some sort of a design principle and value. So that's how important design is to everyday life. Now I would like to take you a little bit backwards to 2020, when the pandemic started and we all went into a lockdown. And raise your hands, how many of you appreciated the design of your landscaping in the house or the design of the furniture that you chose? How many of you watched Netflix, consumed art, consumed music, consumed film that actually made your day go and become much easier? How many? Raise hands. That's nearly all of you, correct? So that's the importance of design. It impacts us every single day. Now, if I go back to the importance of design to Dubai, and Dubai being a competitive city and attracting architects like Sir David, for example, it is very important to have the right ecosystem that allows for designers to thrive. This is why we have the newly launched Museum of the Future in Dubai. This is why we have Expo. The majority of Expo is built on design and engineering, and this is very important for our competitiveness of the city. Now let's talk about the importance of design to Dubai from a numbers perspective. So today, and these are 2020 statistics, freshly in a couple of days ago, design today contributes to more than 48% of the CCI contribution to the GDP. Design today contributes to more than 46% of the workforce of the CCI industry. Design today contributes to more than 43% of organizations that are specialized in CCI. If these numbers tell you anything, it just tells you how important the industry of design is. That basically contributes to the diversification of our economy. Now, what is our role as government? Our role of government as government is basically to sustain the strength of this sector, to be able to actually promote our designers, be it local, emerging artists, established artists, be it residents in the UAE, or even global artists. We need to promote their work locally and internationally, and most importantly, we need to create new markets for them. And to create new markets for them, we need to make sure that we are a competitive city with full integrated infrastructure and business opportunities for these artists and designers.
Your Excellency, I would like to know how you think governments can really leverage design to help the local economy thrive.
I think, Hala put it in a way that, for the government, we already worked on the strategy itself. And of course, when it comes to the measuring, the size of CCI across the whole UAE, it requires us to understand the numbers from Abu Dhabi to Fujairah, all the 7 Emirates. This is where the methodology that we worked on is with WIPO, and it's a kind of a copyright looking in terms of a methodology, in terms of understanding the size of our contribution in the CCI sector. Now, when you understand the size, and we do have a rough number of 2.5% in terms of GDP contribution, yet we'd rather look at, we do have fresh numbers, but I'm kind of very much strict when trying to understand the number because we have many players, and what defines your CCI are sectors, and those sectors are already defined. Yet again, how can we work on the initiatives? So this is where we built 40 initiatives around all of those 6 sectors to make sure that every single institution, whether they're federal or private, are also collaboratively working because we're measuring that. We, in 2018, we attended a creative economy conference in Bali, Indonesia. And since then, we said, okay, after 2 years, it's going to be conducted in the UAE, and it happened here in Expo. And it was in cooperation, as mentioned, with the Indonesian Authority of Creative Industries. And basically, out of this conference, there are many studies and tactics that we understood and we're building on. We had ministerial meetings with international and regional ministers to look at how the creative industries have a role in terms of taking it in terms of what's next. Going back to Hala's point, during the pandemic, we couldn't just sit in Zoom calls doing nothing. And we realized that we are consuming what we call the creative platforms. Yet, what are the creatives getting? So, in the first time ever of the UAE history, and maybe in the region's history, that cash goes directly from cultural institutions to the freelance, to their bank account directly. We did it in 2 phases, and we got an instant approval from Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed when we proposed this. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing for freelancers and the SMEs, and maybe we're going to do it twice. We did a pulse report. We went back. We checked on those businesses to understand how are they doing. The dynamics changed in their business, which is very interesting. There's a report behind that, how the dynamics changed. But most importantly is, I think, proving to the talents who are the heart and soul of whatever we're doing, that we're here, that we're listening, that we're supporting them, and therefore having the UAE as a place, not just regionally, but globally in terms of supporting and talents and what's next.
Mm-hmm. Sir Ajay, I would love to know how you think architecture is really evolving to be more inclusive and more sustainable.
Well, architecture is a sort of backbone to the infrastructure that we call the city. So it's a critical tool that needs to always be mindful and watched. I think sustainability is a critical part of it. It is a very energy and material consuming sector. So as we move into a world where we are very mindful of the climate's urgency, I think architecture has to perform much, much more than it has been. And I think that it can't be pushed aggressively enough. I think benchmarks have to be set to really aggressively shift the strategy. The construction industry has evolved, and it's, construction now is made so that it is recyclable, that parts can be taken off. So buildings are being made to be much more ready for that world, but I think that it's also part of the relationship with government to make sure we bench the targets and push those. And then we build the resilience and the excellence. I really think, championing high design. I always think that we shouldn't just have high design in the special parts. I think that the local communities and the suburbs where you don't think design should be is exactly where design should be. That's where it touches the most. It shouldn't just be for the tourists, it should be for the local community. So I think spreading design as a good, sort of confit or something is a really important way to understand how to make design. It's not a cherry on the top. We've moved past that. That's the 19th century. It is really design in the 21st century. Design excellence is for all, and I think that's what architecture should be about.
So design should be accessible for all. And on that note, I would like to ask each of our panelists just to share with us their projections for the future of design. Will it be more inclusive? And what do you forecast the creative economy to evolve into in the years ahead? Your Excellency, if you would start.
Thank you. I think definitely design would be more inclusive. I would like to go back to Dubai as an example and using soft power for cultural and economical influences. where Dubai was named as a city. Actually, it was the first city to be named as a city of design by the UNESCO, a creative city of design. And the reason for that is because Dubai looked at inclusivity, looked at how can we create platforms for the community to be able to contribute. So I don't know how many of you were able to visit the Sikka Art and Design platform. Now, Sikka is a platform for emerging artists of the UAE and residents of the UAE and global artists, but it's for emerging artists. So that's a community kind of involvement of the artists into the art and design. And people are able to showcase their design to diversified audience. We also host the MENA Global Grad Show. The MENA Global Grad Show is a different sort of design, and it's designed for social innovation and environmental issues, and it invites graduates from worldwide universities to come and create solutions through design for social basically problems or challenges, and as well as environmental problems. So that's how inclusive design is at that front. Now, if you look at policies perspective and what we're doing in terms of policies to ensure inclusivity and accessibility, then let's look at our policies or what Dubai has done in terms of platforms and policies from infrastructure perspective. Look at Dubai Design District, for example, that meets the demands and the needs of the practitioners in this field. Let's look at activation, for example, by hosting the annual Dubai Design Week for international audience as well as local audience. Let's look at education, where we have established the first higher institution of design like DIDI that allows us to build a workforce for the future when it comes to fashion and other sorts of design practices. And last but not least, let's look at infrastructure. We spoke about the Dubai Design District activation. We spoke about Dubai Design Week. Education, we spoke about DIDI. And the last one, which I wanted to speak about, is I think I forgot the last one. Okay. So apologize for that.
Just remind us later if it comes to mind.
But in a nutshell, that, if anything, shows anything, is that the government is committed to design and committed to inclusivity, and the future is very bright for the design sector in Dubai.
Your Excellency.
Shall I jump? No, I mean, for me, I'm just so heartedly, it's so nice to be in a platform where the sort of the political is aligned with the profession, and it's, I think it's about leadership and championing design, and I think you have such excellent examples with Her Excellencies here. For me, the future of design is completely collaborative. It's diverse and collaborative, and it's a little bit like what happened in the art world. I think design should get to the point where everyone feels that they have a stake in it, and that everyone feels capable in understanding the language of design. Because as Her Highness was saying, design touches every part of your life. Everything here has been thought through by somebody. Nothing here just sort of happened. So to have a world where actually most people don't understand the design language is not a good world. And so actually building a world where design awareness is absolutely happening from the start and in is really exactly where we want to be. Yeah.
And across the UAE, you will always see the political aligned with the professional, I would say 99% of the time. So go ahead, Your Excellency.
Well, I'm conscious of time, but I think design is everything, everything. Since thousands of years ago and since, I don't know, any heritage site that you will go to, you'll see what's represented as a language of the past. That is by design. Yeah. And I think parents do design the future of their kids, although the kids will not always agree with the parents. You'll see us as policymakers designing the future of policymaking, designing how governments, designing how education should look like, and being disruptive. And I think post-COVID, we really need to rethink of everything that we've been doing for the past 10, 20, 30 years. We need to be bold, we need to take risks, and I think you never know what the next hour is carrying for you. You just never know. Yeah. And I think this is the time where design is everything, and I can't imagine having this whole without the brand of the government summit, without this beautiful colors, without having an architect like David being here with us, and and making sure that it's not just the color, it's not just the shape, it's really, really more than that. And I think the last maybe way to describe it is talents are kind of, I mean, everyone is talented in their way or another, and everyone is an artist. This is what I believe. But the most important thing is how can we never, never undermine how design and creativity can play a very vital role in every single thing we do in life. So thank you.
And on that note, unfortunately, we have to end this panel discussion. Thank you so much, Your Excellencies. Thank you, Sir Ajay, for joining us today. Thank you.